Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. I stand before you as a self-confessed geek, and my geekness is my hobby as a genealogist. That's something I took up some 50 years ago. I've just recently completed a postgraduate certificate in genealogical, paleographic and heraldic studies, which I took online at the University of Strathclyde. I absolutely commend their courses to anyone with an interest in the subject. Now, in Scotland, we have world-leading access to our family history information, and that's something that tens of millions of people across the world who have a familial connection to Scotland, I know, use. And of course, many of these people who research their own family history at a distance end up coming to Scotland. When I visit the Scotland's People Centre at number 2 Princes Street, I regularly hear the helpful and informed staff taking people from across the world through how to find their family history records for their own ancestors. You hear the gentle whoops of joy as Granny MacGregor is finally found. Now, my family, like probably most families, is full of migration. Besides my great-great-grandfather Archibald Stewart, who left Scotland in 1853 for Canada at the age of 64 after being widowed, I've identified 13 further sets of relatives of his generation and their descendants who've migrated to Canada, the USA, Ceylon, Australia and New Zealand. And in my wife's family, I've identified 12 migration events in the same period of time. And it continues to this day with nephews and nieces that we have who are long-term residents in Sweden, Denmark and Australia. Plus, I've got a more distant connection. The brother of the 5 greats-grandfather of my nephew's fiancée, who was convicted of stealing a coat in 1830 and travelled at government expense to Australia. And for George Adam, I actually have people who emigrated as far away as Paisley. So all of us are likely to have relatives out there who are interested in what we do in Scotland and maintain an active interest in their own history here. The huge Scottish diaspora. They're part of us and we are part of them. And for them, this year is an opportunity for us to move their interest up and increase their attachment to the mother country to another level. The refresh of the Scotland's People website has given even better access to a wide range of family history data. New data has just been added, and that's a key part of drawing our international cousins in. When you visit the historic building lurking behind the Duke of Wellington statue, they get the expert advice that they're looking for, and it can be the highlight of a visit for many people who come to Scotland. But it isn't just people who are employed professionally who matter. There are family history societies right across Scotland, volunteers regularly going out to record the inscriptions from gravestones and publishing the results. I, about 18 months ago, bought the Book of Inscriptions of the new Colton Cemetery. It's about 400 metres behind you, Presiding Officer, from the Scottish Genealogical Society, and that helped me track down 3 particular family members. The Fife Family History Society's Book of Criminals helped me solve another problem in somebody else's family tree, not, of course, in my own. And in Aberdeen, we have the massive resources of the Aberdeen and North East Scotland Family History Society, and they've members right across the world, well over 10,000 members. And in my constituency, the Family History Society of Buchan does likewise for local data. To know your own family history is to better understand yourself. Now, to be particular and personal, I have more politicians in my family than I ever thought that I would actually have. A Canadian Senator, Keith Laird, who's a 3rd cousin. He was a legal partner of Paul Martin Sr., who was the father of a Canadian Prime Minister. An MP in New South Wales, Alexander Berry, who's a cousin 4 times removed, who became wealthy 150 years ago by employing convicts. He subsequently endowed a chair at St Andrews University that continues to this day. Lord James Stevenson, my father's 1st cousin, who chaired the Empire Exhibition Committee in the 1920s and was responsible for the building of the first Wembley Stadium. and I really don't have time. And my great-uncle, Alex Stevenson...
I don't think you'd be friendly somehow.
Lord Provost in this city, who ensured that the statues to Robert Bruce and William Wallace were installed on either side of the entrance into Edinburgh Castle in 1929. The attraction of genealogy, and the Cabinet Secretary referred to it, is one of the branches of history and one that is intensely personal. And of course, it's one where you will never finish your research. Now, that means, of course, there's the opportunity for lots of repeat visits for people. But, of course, you sometimes discover what today would be bad news, but when it's 200 years ago, it's merely interesting. In a parish record of a child's birth, I once saw the phrase, conceived in antenuptial fornication. Now, if that was my parent, that might be one thing, but 200 years ago, it was fascinating because it's redolent of another age.
And there,
now,
I'm afraid
I do have to close now, Presiding Officer, to go back to the National Records of Scotland to read the 200 pages of court papers, 17 recognitions, etc., of the young man who stole a coat from Leith Walkhouse in August 1830 and got a free trip to Australia for his pains.